Our modular bike coupler is a product designed for use in developing nations for the purpose of giving old, broken bikes, which are plentiful in places such as Kenya, a new use. We left the clamp with a North American university student who uses a bike as her primary method of transportation to see how a North American would react and interact with it. We asked her to think about how she would use this object in her everyday life and how she could use it if modern building tools weren't
So in
available.
terms of using it for a coupler for bike parts, we had a sidecar type rig set up. Can you think of anything else that we would use other than a sidecar rig? Any other way you could use this to make a improve functionality for a bike?
You could probably use it to definitely sort of piece together a bike if you didn't have welding available right there. So like if you were saying that there was bike parts lying about, you could probably piece together. Or like if you have a bike and it's broken and you need it to get somewhere, you could use it to sort of fix pieces together to make a makeshift like working bike until you can get something better.
Is there anything else you could see this being used for beyond bikes?
Well, I sort of thought it might be really useful as sort of like a building supply if you're making houses out of like random scraps here and there. You could use it to sort of fortify pieces of broken wood or metal and make like a better, more like structural frame, or just make a structure out of it instead of using like nails or something if you didn't have that available.
Do you see anything that's uniquely better about making it this way as opposed to other joiners or couplers?
Well, I really like that you can twist it. Like they don't have to be lined up completely. You can have something that is like perpendicular to it or at a really weird angle. So if you were putting something together and you have to have it at a random angle, you're not just using doesn't really matter that that's the way it is. You can just change the centerpiece so it works with what you're trying to build.
Was there any way that this clamp made you reflect on life in the developing world?
Well, in the context that you told me you were thinking of building it, that sort of kept it in thinking about the third world, because that's the idea you imagined around. So pretty much every time I interacted with it, it was pretty much sort of like, how would this work in a third world country, and how would I use it if I was there?
In your daily life, outside the context of a third world, could you see this being used for anything?
I could definitely see it being used a lot in just sort of like the DIY culture. Not so much sort of mainstream, because a lot of the stuff we have is, if it's broken, you just throw it away. But I could see like you would definitely, if you released it here, it would definitely have a pretty big niche market for people who are like build it yourself sort of things. For people who aren't quite handy enough to figure out how to weld something, this would be definitely a really good thing that doesn't involve burning yourself. So.
You're saying that you thought it would be, or here you find that people throw things out more. Was that? Do you have any thoughts on that compared to like here in the third world? Did the clamp make you reflect on that at all?
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of like a culture of throwing things away, and I think we're starting to sort of realize that more, and that we have sort of this culture of like do it yourself and make things from other things, but a lot of the ideas that we have are from other like countries where they reuse everything, and like everything has a second life after it's gone. So I think in that context, like something like this would help us sort of realize that like everything has a second life. Even if it's broken, you can fix it.
Do you think that it has more potential sort of with instructions and given ideas, or do you feel like it inspires a lot just on its own without any kind of guidelines at all?
I think
what kind of packaging do you see?
Not having guidelines of what it's like good for is probably better, because a lot of the like things we find really useful, like post-it notes and stuff, the original inventions were not what they're made for used today. So I think not having guidelines is better than having guidelines, because guidelines might set people in thinking like, oh, it's only for bicycles, so then I couldn't use it to build something else with it.